Hello family, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for watching and thank you for being here. Today family, I'm so excited to share this day with you as it's one of my favorite day. The 16th of September is the day that my family and I 13 years ago we migrated to Australia. So I thought to myself, what's the best way to start this day by sharing my experience, the pros and cons, things that I like and dislike about Australia. This video is gonna be a long one, so make sure you have a drink. Let's start with the pros. Things that I like about living in Australia. Number one, it has to be safety and security. Here in Australia, it's very safe in such a way that you can leave your front door or your back door unlocked and no one will come and break in. Or you don't hear people go and rob banks or stealing or go in a shopping center, shoot people. Obviously, everywhere where you live, there will always be good and bad area where there's higher crime rates and low crime rates. But majority in general, my experience, I feel like Australia is the most safest and secured country compared to other countries. Even the border security is very good in such a way that you can't enter Australia without proper documentation, which is one good thing I like about Australia. Number two, I love living in Australia because there is some awesome Australians, some awesome people here in Australia. Some people are really nice, they're loving and caring people in such a way that they will go above and beyond to try and help you out, to look after you and to help you as much as they can. Number three is infrastructure. Here in Australia, we have the best road, we have the best commercial and residential building with really amazing architects and well designed. We also have amazing bridges, amazing roads, airports. We have good railways. We have good public hospital and public school. Number four, here in Australia, we have the best health system in such a way that you can go to a public hospital and you don't have to pay anything and receive the best care, go through any machine that you've been referred to, which is great and is very amazing. Number five, income support system. So people who are working, they pay tax, and that tax supports people with disability, people with pensioner, like people who are not working. It support them to so they get paid every fortnight to cover their everyday living expenses, which is a great system. And this system really help and reduce those crime rates, because I feel like if that system wasn't in place, the crime will be really high. Another pro that I like about living in Australia, you have 24/7 electricity, you have 24/7 water supply in your house, you have toilet in your house, you've got Wi-Fi in your house, you've got good phone and internet service, which is a great thing. We usually take these little things for granted. Another pro thing I love about living in Australia is the technology and electronic system. Everything is in your phone, everything is online. Like if you want to book flight, if you want to order food, if you want to buy clothes or sell clothes, you can all do it online. And also the government knows how many population are here in Australia, like the data, you have to submit all the data, and if you relocate yourself to a different area, you have to change your address. And all this system, it helps to track how many people are in the country and how many people are outside the country. So this system I really like, and the technology and the fact that you can order everything online and receive it so quickly, it's so amazing. You don't have to carry cash with you, you use a card Another pro thing that I like about living here in Australia is the freedom of speech. Anyone can criticize the government, anyone can talk, can share their opinion about the government, about the politician without feeling so unsafe or feel so threatened. In fact, the government will even encourage you to have your say and submit like a survey on something that is relating to the government, which I really like about the freedom of speech we have here. Another thing pro that I like in Australia is that the bank can give you loans. So if you want to buy a house, the bank can give you a mortgage. If you want to start a business, the bank can lend you money. If you want to buy a car, the bank can give you a personal loan, can give you a credit card. So it facilitates for people who are not rich to be in the market of house, property, to start a business, which is a great system. Yeah, another pro I like about living in Australia is the road rules. Here in Australia, people respect road rules. So if it's red light, people stop. If a pedestrian is crossing, people in the car will literally stop the car for you to cross, which in my country that doesn't happen. You have to run for your life. So that road rules is really good. And if you don't stop, sometimes you will get fined if you speed, if you didn't stop in a traffic light. So it's very strict and very well thought and really good system. And also, if there is a emergency services vehicle like police, ambulance, or fire trucks with their lights on, car will literally pull over and give away to them to go to pass first, because in terms of emergency you really need them to be on your side as soon as possible. And now I'm gonna move into the cons. And number one con, or things that I don't like about living in Australia, is the fact that a lot of Australians and Australian government does not acknowledge indigenous language or indigenous culture. You find in school they teach Chinese, they teach Japanese, but for indigenous people, they don't teach the language, and some of the indigenous or non-indigenous people don't even know their language, or they can't even speak their own language, which is very sad. If I was to change something in Australia, everyone in Australia will have to speak indigenous language and will have to learn indigenous culture. Number two con that I don't like is here in Australia, a lot of people are very private in such a way that people just keep everything to themselves. They don't like to educate themselves or learn about other people's culture. They don't like to know about their neighbor or associate with their neighbor. Sometimes you live in a street where you never know your neighbor, you never say hello to your neighbor, which is very sad, as this can cause a lot of people to experience depression or feel lonely, because it can get very lonely because you don't even know any of your neighbors. But I'm so lucky, I have good neighbors that I know, and yeah, I've got good neighbors, I can say that. Another con is some people here in Australia are so racist. Some people in Australia are so racist in such a way that they will remind you where you come from, go back to where you come from. They'll call you names, they will insult you in different names. Then these things happen even in the workplace, in church, in public transport, which is very sad. We are all same people, we all bleed red blood. We just need to learn to love each other and accept each other no matter what, because nothing we can do, we can't change it. Another thing that I don't like about living here in Australia is you don't see your family or you don't see your friend until on the weekend. You can't just see them during weekdays. Everyone is so busy working, everyone is so occupied with so many things. So the only time you will see people is on weekend, or unless if people called sick, then they might be at home. You can't just drop at my house and expect to find me there. which in my country, you will see your family 24/7. You will drop in a house and find someone at home, and you will talk to them and chat and go home and go to your place feeling happy, and but here in Australia, you have to book, you have to call people, because not everyone is at home every single day. That's another thing I don't like. Another con that I don't like about living here in Australia is a lot of people are on debts. People have so many debts. You can't pay anything up front. If you want to buy a house, you have to get a mortgage, which you have to pay it over 30 years and a higher interest rate on it. So there's so many debts, and a lot of people here are living in debts. Not everyone is rich. You can't just buy a land, or you can't just buy a car up front. Unless if you won lotto or you are rich, you've got the money, then you will do that without feeling any pressure. But most of us here in Australia, we have loans, we have debts, which is not good. So be smart when you get those loans. Make sure you really need it. Don't just go into any debts. Another con thing is the government penalize people who work multiple jobs. So if you work 2 jobs, they will give you a big tax in such a way that it discourages you to even look for a second job, because you pay massive tax. The thing that I don't like about living here in Australia is that people call you in the names. Like when compared to my country, you have to call people, even your brother and sister, you call them like sister and brother. You don't just call them in their first name. But here in Australia is common. Husband and wife will call each other in names. Kids will call their mom and dad in names. In my country, if you even find a stranger, you have to call them like auntie, uncle, grandpa, even though they're not your relative or your biological parent or your biological sister and brother and sister. You still call them as a sign of showing respect rather than calling them in their names. Another thing that I don't like about living here in Australia as a foreigner and as a migrant, so many barriers that we face, or I have faced. And first thing first can be like a language barrier. Like when I migrated in here in Australia, I never knew English, so I had to learn English from start, which was challenging. But even saying that, some people here are good at English. They've went to school, they learn English, and then they take their studies further and go to university and do a uni degree. But at the end of your university journey and you receive your degree, you finish, but you will struggle to find a job in that field that you studied in. Or if you completed your uni degree and you did everything in English, like you did your placement in English, your exam, your assessment, everything, you did it in English, but at the end of your 4 years or 3 years of studying at uni, they will require you to do another English exam, which a lot of Australian born here will never pass that exam. But they just put it to foreigners and to all the migrants to do that English, which I find it as a barrier, and which it puts every foreigner and or every migrant into a second class citizens, and which is very sad. This system, if they require English, it should be implemented to everyone, not just migrant or particular group of people. It's not fair. So when they say Australia is all about fair go, it's not true. That sentences, people need to stop using it, because it's not true for foreigner. If you ask other foreigners, they will tell you the same experience. They will tell you what I've just shared here. Anyway, I'll keep going. Another thing that I don't like about living in Australia, people swear a lot. a lot of people just swear, like they'll think like it's just a normal way of talking. They'll do it in front of children. It's not good. It's not appropriate. Another thing that I don't like about living here in Australia is that a lot of Australians complain a lot. They don't appreciate things that we have in this country. Hey, listen to me, and this is an advice. Go in a third world country, go travel outside Australia. I'm telling you now, you will come back and appreciate what we have in this country. This country is a beautiful country, and it's time for you, my brother and sister, to learn to appreciate what we have in this country. Another thing that I don't like about living here in Australia, a lot of family are broken up. A lot of family, you will find wife and husband and wife, they've divorced. Brother and sister, they don't talk to each other. Father and daughter, they don't talk to each other. Until they die, they will never talk to each other, which is very sad. Family comes first no matter what. So whatever you go through with your family, sit down and talk about it and sort it out, rather than sitting with a beef and and not talk to each other until you die, because life is too short. You need to live in harmony. I think I've covered all my pros and cons about living here in Australia. Thank you so much for watching. I know this video was a long one, but yeah, I just thought I'll share my experience with you. And thank you for all these amazing subscribers and amazing people that have been sharing and and liking and subscribe. I really appreciate all your support. And if you haven't considered subscribe, please subscribe, as it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And yes, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.